I always turn it over to some local oath keepers. So whether it's going to be the guys here from Connecticut, or if Dave wants to come up from Massachusetts, whoever wants to do it. I just want an oath keeper to do it. So we'll put you guys on the spot. Who wants to do it? Steve. Steve LaPlante is retired corrections. He's one of our law enforcement officers, been with us from the very start. Steve has on his, look at his arm right there, that's an oath keeper tattoo. Whenever I see Steve and I see that, it impresses upon me my obligation to make sure that he never wants to burn it off his arm.
Never.
By making sure that we don't do anything wrong. I want to make sure that I fulfill his trust in us. So thank you, brother.
Oh, thanks.
So I'm going to have Steve do the oath ceremony.
Thank you all for being here. It's great to see fellow patriots, oath keepers from Mass, 3%ers, everybody. If you want to take the oath, you're going to raise your right hand. And after the word I, you're going to state your name. I, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and that I take this obligation freely, without any mental reservation, or purpose of evasion, pledging my life, my fortune, and my sacred honor. So help me God. Thank you. I know it by heart. I know this oath by heart, but I always read it because it's very important to me and I don't want to screw anything up. Thank you.
Hey folks, is there any, I didn't ask for questions. Anybody have any questions? Oh, here's what we're going to do also. Dave's going to walk around. If you don't mind, if you want to be on a free alert list, we're going to be doing free classes. We want our guys to go train and pass on their skills. So they'll have free classes here in Massachusetts. Also, if you want to be on an alert list in case there's some vital information we want to pass on to you, something's going on we want you to know about, he'll be walking around with a clipboard. Just give him your whatever email address you want to use, and whatever other information you want is fine with us. We just want to be able to reach out to you. Any questions for me as the founder of Oath Keepers, what's going on in our country? Just go ahead. What are your questions?
Anybody? Somebody.
No questions? We're all good? Yes, sir.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Some political people and media people think there might be a civil war coming. Well, if that ever happens, what would happen to a state like Massachusetts that's mostly a blue state compared to other states that are more conservative?
Well, I mean, it depends upon who you're talking about. If you're talking about purely left and right, look, like I said before, my preference is to avoid that if we possibly can. Unfortunately, the rhetoric and the actions of the radical left in this country shows an intent to do just that. You've got, speaking of the Weather Underground, you've got Bill Ayers, a notorious terrorist, coming out of retirement. He's the head of Refuse Fascism. He helped found it, along with Carl Dix, Revolutionary Communist Party. And so they're like I said, and the signaling from Obama is pretty bad too, right? Pretty ominous. So, and the rhetoric from the left has been, advocating violence and violent revolution, flying the communist flag on U.S. soil. And you've got unfortunately, an entire generation of leftists now have been basically brainwashed with Marxist ideology, who've been conditioned to hate their own country. It's pretty bad. So there is a possibility it could happen. One more reason why you should get with your neighbors and get as squared away as you can, work your way up the ladder. Neighborhood, church. Churches are important too. Every church must have a security team. Then your town, you need to have a town watch. That's a good way to call it. It's basically a town militia. County sheriff, you should have a posse. Sheriff Arpaio, 3,000-man posse. Every sheriff should have a posse like that. So it's important for you to get ready in case that does happen. It's a very distinct possibility. So are you asking me for my prognosis?
Well, I'm just wondering, being that Massachusetts is a very liberal state, what side are they going to be on?
Well, what do you think? They'll be on the side of the communists if it breaks out.
Right. So where does that leave us?
It leaves you with a fight.
More ammunition.
So, you know, I mean, frankly, I wouldn't, it's a mistake to ever think that your enemies are laughable and impotent and will never sharpen up. You should always presume they're going to start training and getting better. And we see indicators of that now. But we have on our side the great majority of the combat veterans and the great majority of those that are actually trained. That's a fact, right? Because we are, you know, people of the gun, and they're not. They're playing catch up now. So you got the Red Guard, and you've got, you know, a bunch of Maoists running around, the John Brown Gun Club, whose motto is putting the red back in redneck. They're all running around with guns now, trying to play catch up. So you should not discount them, but I think you have the advantage of the skill sets and experience are on your side. But what I will say is we all need to get back in shape, myself included. I'm a fat bastard and I know it. So I need to get myself back in shape, and I will. My personal commitment to you. But all of you guys that have a little extra on in the middle, you all got to start getting rid of that, because if you can't move and shoot and communicate effectively, then your buddies are gonna die because you're not in good enough shape. Like I said, I'm guilty too. So, but my point is that I think in our encounters with the Antifa on the streets, it's been pretty much a 10-to-1 ratio.
Right.
It would take 10 of them. Like, if you had 4 Oath Keepers or bikers or whatever, I'd be confident of them taking on 10 times their number.
Sure.
Really, for the most part.
And let me buttress what you just said about and Tom Clancy's novel about Fred Franks. He led 7 Corps into, it's called Into the Storm, the book. He led 7 Corps. One of the doctrines of our U.S. military is to learn how to fight outnumbered. And you make a great point. They're bigger. Our terrorists, they're bigger. We have us. We must learn to fight outnumbered. We must learn to fight better, bigger, stronger, faster. And what Fred Franks had talked about in 7 Corps into that Hail Mary pass into Desert Storm is he went in with so many tanks, he knew he was outnumbered. It's about strategy, it's about planning, it's about listening, it's about planning, it's about watching your enemy, learning what your enemy is doing, and learn to fight outnumbered. And we got to be armed. We always have to watch. And the other thing is we must never be afraid. Never be afraid. These people are always going to come after us. The thing that happened in Alexandria was just one person. But look at what happens all the time on campuses. These people show up in the numbers. We thought there'd be numbers out here, but they didn't show up because they knew that we were here. All of us are armed. Most of us are. And so they didn't come here. So we must learn to fight outnumbered. Do you understand what I'm saying? We're small, they're big. Learn to fight outnumbered.
Well, how many guys are infantry veterans? Raise your hand for infantry. Okay, you have a special duty to pass on those skills. Learning to fight as a buddy team and fire team in a squad, it's, as you know, your effectiveness is far greater than your numbers when you fight together. And that's been proven. Some good books to read are about the Rhodesian SAS and the Rhodesian Celia Scouts and the Rhodesian Light Infantry. Right. A lot of times they go up against a band of guerrillas, sometimes 5, 10 times their numbers, and they still prevail because they were disciplined and they stuck to their training. They trained and they trained and they trained, and they were very, very effective. And so the other side would break and run, and they would never break and run. Never. Not one time. So, that's what we have to do is make sure that we're better. And usually we are. Like I said, a lot of us are out of shape. It's one of our big Achilles heels. But you got to go grab those young kids, your children and grandchildren, and make sure you pass on those skills. Just tell them, hey, let's go play paintball. And that's one way to get in shape, is have the young kids run circles around you and shoot the crap out of you with paintball guns, make you realize how much your fitness sucks. But you can pass on those skills: move, shoot, communicate. Teach them how to do 3-second rushes, how to take effective cover, how to communicate with each other and do their bounding. You got to teach them all those basic infantry skills. And the same goes for you. And husbands and wives, you're a buddy team too. Okay? It'll have dividends even inside your house or at your car. If ever you're attacked, you got to fight together. Being able to communicate and fight as one rather than scattered is better. Yeah. So, deal with it, man. It might be coming. I think it's important for us to get ready for it. But the way to get ready for it is remember the founders' admonitions and their example. They expected us all to be the militia. They expect us all to be organized and trained with our neighbors, not isolated alone in our houses hiding on a stack of pancake batter, It's not about bulk purchases of pancake batter or playing with radios. Radios are great, but you better be securing that ability to defend yourselves and each other too, okay? All right, any other questions? Yes, sir.
How do you feel about state-sponsored militias, like self-defense forces?
Well, I think they're great. Now, there's a difference between a militia and a state defense force. A state defense force cannot be called into federal service. I think and a lot of states have them. So, does your state have one here?
Baker just disbanded it back in May.
Yeah, we'll get that reversed. It's a really good for the folks across the country. If you have a state defense force in your state, join it. That's a really good vehicle. It's the next best thing to a real honest-to-God militia. They can't be called in federal service. A lot of them are unarmed. But if you we did some relief effort down in southern Georgia when they had a tornado down there. We got to know a lot of the guys in the state defense force for Georgia, and it turned out they're pretty switched on. And even though they don't have guns on duty, they all, of course, are gun owners. And so, if the time comes, they can certainly grab their rifles, and they're already a cohesive unit. So I would encourage you, no matter how anemic it might be or neutered it might be, go ahead and join it anyway, make it stronger. Because at least you have some state-level force you can pour yourself into. Yeah, absolutely. I would support if county commissioners got together and said, given the threat of terrorism, we're going to form a county militia. We're going to call it the county militia, and we're going to have it under the authority of the county commissioners. I would support that. I would.
Yes.
It's not as good as a state one, of course, under command of the governor, but at least it's under command of the civil power and has authority. Next best thing below that would be the sheriff's posse.
Yeah, but isn't that part of the Second Amendment, that a local militia, a well-regulated, incumbent upon the defense of the state? Isn't that the job of the town?
Absolutely.
Counties?
Yeah,
right.
absolutely. And at the time of the founders, it was town militias like
Right.
Lexington or
Right.
Concord,
Right.
and then it was the county level, and then it was the province or the state.
Sure.
Absolutely. So, what I'm saying is that, well, first of all, the militia, the word militia is like there's the N word,
I know, it's a
and now
bad
there's the M word. You can't say the M word militia.
I know.
So, what we say at Oath Keepers is, hey, we're not calling what we do neighborhood watch, church security team, town watch. I wouldn't call that a militia because it doesn't have a government sanction. It's not under command of the civil power, and I think that's a valid necessity. You don't want a military power in your community that's not under your elected representatives. It could be dangerous. So we don't use that title for things that we do that are kind of like that. We save that for when we do have sanction from the state, or at least from a town or county.
But why do we need that sanction from the state? Isn't the Second Amendment clear that it's incumbent upon the towns and the communities, a well-regulated militia,
Right.
or a free
I
state?
understand. And there were volunteer companies that didn't have official sanction, I believe. I'll have to talk to Dr. Vera about that. But I think it's a matter of strategy. Because we have active duty military and police officers, I'm not going to call what we're doing militias. And I do advocate for some level of approval. It'd be better to have your county commissioners stand up. Because of the demonization of it, you're going to get more cooperation if it's done through like a county sheriff's posse.
Sure.
Or you call it whatever you want to call it, CERT. Combine CERT with neighborhood watch. What do you have?
Get some sort of sanction.
Right. It's better to have official sanction. Yeah. And so meanwhile, that's why I encourage everyone to become part of the first responder community. Like my son's a volunteer firefighter. Just went through the fire academy. I'm very proud of him. He's doing his service. He didn't join the military, but he's become a firefighter. Good. I think all of us should be doing that. I'm going to go do search and rescue most likely in my county, or volunteer fire. Oh, hey, thanks, brother. Appreciate it. All right, thank you. If you can qualify for it, do it. Whether it's CERT, volunteer fire, search and rescue, EMT teams. Some of our guys at Oath Keepers are on the EMT team. Others are search and rescue. You can find something. Your local ham club, That's important too, right? They help out during emergencies. So do one of those things. It's kind of like a Chinese menu. Figure out what's available in your town or your county. Pick one that you can qualify to go do and go do it. When you're part of the first responder community, now you're on the inside. You'll get to know all the police, you get to know all the other first responders. The community looks at you differently now too. You're not some wild-eyed militia guy. You're a volunteer firefighter, or you're the guy on the EMT team. Sure. So they see you as being a good guy. Because they've been conditioned that, oh, there's the professionals, and then there's the rest of us. And anybody that tries to do what the professionals do, who aren't with a professional hat on their head, they're somehow dangerous militia people. So go become a professional, so-called professional. They're still volunteers though. So I think it's a really good strategy. That way you become part of the community and you can shape their behavior. When the time comes and those police officers are giving orders against your rights, if you know them because you're in a local volunteer fire department or you're the local EMT, driver for the local EMT van, you'll have a better chance of influencing their behavior, won't you? Than if you're some guy that sits in his house and all he does is polish guns all day, right? Sure. Okay. So anyway, other questions? Anybody else? Don't be shy. Ask away. Okay, we're done. I'm here. I'll be here hanging out. I'd like to have a beer with you guys, chat. I encourage you to put your name down on the alert list for Massachusetts Oath Keepers. But whether you're Oath Keeper, 3%, or whatever you are, I really encourage you to stay in the fight. Don't go to sleep because Trump's in office. He needs your help. We do need to hold his feet to the fire, but not burn him at the stake. That's how I kind of think about Trump. Sure. Let's give him a chance. But, when he screws up, like with the thing in Syria, I oppose that. I made it very clear I oppose it and why. I think it was a disaster. We need to fix this country, Heck, call up the National Guard, put them on the border. You want to do something dramatic? Do that. I don't know why he hasn't done that yet. I have no idea. I'll go volunteer right now to go protect the border. And I'm saying that as a guy who's quarter Mexican. My family came here from my great-grandparents came here from Mexico. My great-grandfather fought for Pancho Villa, figured out Pancho Villa with a dirt bag, figured out how corrupt Mexico was, he couldn't fix it, he got his family out. So I oppose illegal immigration because we fled Mexico for a reason, because it sucks, and we don't want this country to turn into Mexico. We want people to come here in a small enough numbers they can assimilate, and we only want the ones that are going to assimilate. But anyway, my point is that we can't just sit on our butts and expect Trump to fix everything. We have to be willing to stand up. So it's kind of like with a sheriff. If you have a good sheriff, you should have a roster of guys that you go and collect who are willing to be on his posse right now. Here's their skill sets. This guy was in the Marine Corps 0311. Here's the MOS. This guy did this guy did that, engineer, whatever he was. Put together your units on paper and say, Sheriff, all you got to do is say, yes, there's your posse. That puts pressure on him, right? Because now he's got a turnkey posse. He has no excuse. Volunteers. We'll self-fund. We'll self-supply. We'll go do bake sales like I did when I was a volunteer firefighter. We'll go supply ourselves. We don't want any money. We just want you to say yes. And that does two things at once, right? It puts pressure on him. But why does it put pressure on him? Because you are willing to stand up, put your boots on, and get out there and go do it. So you're answering the call in advance, saying we are willing to go. And the same thing goes for Trump. We all need to be willing to stand up and say, Mr. Trump, if you say yes, we will go and secure the border, or we will go do whatever else he needs us to do. And one last thing I'll say, if the bad guys, the deep state, we all know who we're talking about, if they think they're going to be able to remove him by some trickery by declaring him mentally incompetent, I think we need to have a firm line in the sand that says, if you try, we will stop you. And if you assassinate him, gloves come off. That should be our motto. Yeah.